Hi everybody, it's Big Al here again with some content for Lord of the Rings Rise to War. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Falgin. He has definitely made some very big moves on becoming a lot better tank. In my opinion, he is the second best tank in the game without a relic. With his relic, he does become the best tank in the game. So, first I want to talk about his skills. Okay, his main skills that you're going to want to use are Thrain's Guard, which damage taken by a dwarf unit in 3 allied formations from the first 6 hits is minus 30%. Well, as you increase it, it goes to 8 instances of damage, and level 10, it's modified by commander stat. Okay, so his second most important one. For each type of dwarf formation unit in your army, defense of the commander's formation plus 10 up to 2 stacks. As you go up, it can stack up to 3 times. Plus, on level 10, you're going to get some extra hit points. One thing that people don't realize, for each type of dwarf formation unit in your army, okay, when you're using Falgin as a tank, you're going to want to use something like a Swan Knight, a Great Beast, or a Troll. Then you have your other 3 commanders. If you put Guardians on all of your commanders, that's only one dwarf type. Okay, so you're going to want to switch it up. With your other 3 commanders, you're going to want to put, say, a Guardian, a Ram Rider, an Iron Warrior, or say a Death Defender. Okay, so so that the commanders in your formation have 3 different kinds of dwarf units. Okay, so then you're talking about plus 30 defense and up to 2 stacks. So you're getting an extra 60 defense. That's pretty big. Now, his other skills. Okay, I'm going to talk about this one, Durin's Blood. As a lot of people mention, Durin's Blood is the best damage skill in the game. But here's the thing. You need command over here because his best skill modifies off command. You're not going to be using commander attack gear. And plus, he only has 1 damage skill. He will never do enough damage to make it worth putting his gear geared towards commander attack and damage. But I recommend after you fill up the R4 tree and the top R0 skill that you want to put 1 point in Durin's Blood. And the reason for that is it's going to hit and knock off one of the instances of battle for, like, say, White Council. That is the biggest skill that you always want to be able to chip away at on the first couple rounds. Because the big skills, they go off on round 3 most of the time. So you're trying to get through White Council. Okay. The next skill is Musician. Okay, which restores hit points. That effect is modified by focus stat. Well, again, this is the third skill that you're putting points into. You're not going to want to build for the focus. It doesn't scale enough to modify to make it outweigh just gearing him for command. Okay, so you want to put points in Thrain's Guard because you want to make the rest of your commanders live. Then you're going to want to do the Arid Loon skill because that's what makes you tank. I mean, you can put 5 points in each and then max out the Thrain's Guard first and then the Arid Loon. But the way you're setting your gear up for Falgin, it's all going to be command and unit defense. So he's already going to be taking a big reduction in damage. So, like I said, Thrain's Guard, Arid Loon, 1 point endurance blood, and then in musician. The heal's not going to be that good, but it's just a little bit added on to help him help tank. So I'm going to go back to stats. Okay, there's a couple different ways to gear him. The gear sets that will help him the most are evasive. I'm going to show you real quick. Evasive action. First 3 rounds of this formation, damage received minus 24% with the 4-piece skill. If you can do the 4-piece skill on Falgin, I highly recommend it. I think evasive action is the second best. The first best, I believe, is fortitude, because it's minus 12% physical damage for the entire fight. Most of the time, you're tanking. You're not just tanking for the first 3 rounds. You are trying to tank for the entire fight. In role play with your Swan Knights, the Swan Knights are provoking the entire fight. In Great Beast and non-role play, they are provoking for the entire fight, or taunting. It's up to you which wordage you want to use. Okay, this is one thing I'm going to do to try and test out. I put on the crossbow because it gives just a little bit of focus. So I want to see how much that skill musician that is modified by focus, I want to see how much this little bit of focus will help. Okay, but ultimately the absolute best is the gear that's on there now: the cutlass, the horseman's helm, the superior hauberk, and the drums of Moria. And again, I think fortitude is the absolute best. I want to talk about the relic. Remember me saying how I believe that he's the second best tank in the game until without the relic? Well, here's the relic. You got a command plus 30. You got unit defense plus 6. Right there, 2 stats that are going to help you. But then when you look at his special ability on his relic, reduces damage received by this formation's melee unit by 1%. I'm not even worried about the ranged units because he's a tank. All tanks are melee units. The above effect gains 1% for each allied dwarf unit present. See, each allied dwarf unit. So it doesn't have to be separate types. It can be 3 guardians on your other 3 commanders. So you're going to get an extra 3%. Okay? Let me go in here. So at most, you can get an extra 18% plus the melee units. So that's 24%, and it can stack up to 3 times. That's a lot of reduced damage. That definitely makes him the best tank once he gets his relic. The other good thing about Frodo, Sam, Falgin, which makes them better tanks than everybody else, is they perform really good even with just purple gear. You don't need all golden gear. Yes, obviously that will make them better, but they still perform great with purple gear. Your other tanks in the game, like some people use Sauron, Gandalf the White, I'm just going to use those 2, even Gil. They will not perform as good with purple gear as Falgin and Frodo will. Both of those commanders will outperform Sauron, Gandalf the White, Gil, pound for pound. If they're all using the same gear, Falgin and Frodo would outweigh them every time. So those were a couple things I wanted to talk about. Again, so I'm going to go into troops. With Falgin, you're going to want to use Swan Knights, Trolls, Great Beasts, and then everybody else in your formation needs to be dwarves. It kind of sucks that it is race specific, but we can get around that. Dwarves are nice tanky units to begin with. they're cheap, they're cost effective. So there you go. That's my video on Falgin. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. And remember, make what you can with what you got, but you want to make the best that you can. Don't worry about what's best in slot. Worry about what's best in your bag for that character. I can't stress that enough. People worry too much about getting the best in slot for every single commander, and they won't use the commander unless they have best in slot. No, make the most use out of your account. Use what you can, but make sure it's the right gear for that commander. And that's all I got for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. I will be coming out with a lot more content, and it's just nice to know that it's appreciated. Have a good night, everybody.